Yesterday, the death of rock musician Lou Reed was announced in New York. Lou Reed was 71 and died of complications from a liver transplant which he received in May. He was a massively influential songwriter and guitarist who helped shape nearly 50 years of rock music, and news of his death has sparked tributes from his fans all over the world. In a minute, we will talk to his friend Gavin Friday about this fascinating artist. But first, Abey Philman-Bowman has been monitoring the reaction to Lou Reed's death, and he joins me now. So, Abey, what have people been saying since this news broke?
Well, understandably, people are hugely upset by the loss of Lou Reed. David Bowie said simply he was a master. His Velvet Underground bandmate John Cale said the world has lost a fine songwriter and poet. I've lost my schoolyard buddy. And Morrissey said no words to express the sadness of the death of Lou Reed. He'd been there all my life. He'll always be pressed to my heart. We are all time-bound. Today, with the loss of liberating Lou, life is a pigsty. Morrissey's thoughts there.
Well, musician and artist Gavin Friday was a friend of Lou Reed's, and Gavin joins me now on the line to tell us more about this iconic figure. Gavin, when did you first come across Lou Reed, and can you describe the kind of influence he had on you then, musically and artistically?
Wow, I first came across Lou Reed, being perfectly honest, as a 12-year-old boy through David Bowie. It was in 1972. I'd become a big David Bowie fan, and David Bowie opened many doors for many musicians. And he produced an album called Transformer, and that was Lou Reed. And then I worked my way backwards then, as a kid, sort of laterally discovering sort of the Velvet Undergrounds around 75, 76, just as punk was kicking in. And I mean, the legacy of the Velvet Underground alone, I mean, there's a famous quote, they probably only sold 10,000 albums the first one it came out, but every one of the people that bought them formed a band. I mean, that band alone, I mean, what Lou has done, with that band alone, you could talk for hours. But the man, in the last 30 years, what he's done in profound music, it's a huge loss, a huge loss.
So you, as that young 12-year-old, heard something that had sparked something in you musically. You then went on, though, to meet him in person. What was it like to actually stand in the room then with this person who had such an influence on you?
Well, I mean, most people, when you meet them, as a kid, you have icons and heroes, and then you grow up, and you have people who you respect, admire, or influence you. I met Lou in the late 80s, and he had a reputation for being, he didn't put up with rubbish, you know, he said it as it was. But I found him the most courteous and gentle man. But I've seen the sharp side of him. He wouldn't sit with fools. But you don't really get into the starstruck thing. I mean, it's like as the gentleman just quoted, Bowie said it was he's a master, or was a master, and it was like you were sitting with a master. I just wanted to know how he wrote this and what was it like in the factory and stories, and we'd sit and talk, and we performed together through the great producer Hal Wilner, who worked with him very closely in the last 15 years, not just producing his albums, but also doing these incredible radio podcasts of Lou and Hal, which I think everyone should go online and search out. Their extraordinary conversations through music. So the man was as Bowie said, a master. I tell you, David Bowie learned an awful lot from Lou Reed.
You, though, as a performer, heard and saw and recognised something in his work that you brought to your own work. What was it about his vision that, you know, sparked a chord or struck a chord with you, though?
Well, I think it was a combination. I mean, the Velvets, if you want to look at the Velvet Underground, they were really the originators of sort of punk rock, the minimal chords, talking about things that weren't, you know, ABC. They talked about S&M and masochism and heroin and sexuality to the front when everyone else was taking just drugs and saying love and peace. He also merged art very well with music in a very with the obviously guidance of Warhol as his mentor and the producer of the early stuff. But he brought art. He brought art sadness into music. Sadness, like you actually listen to the album that came after Transformer, which is one of my favorite, Berlin, which is a profound, dark, sad album about a junkie and suicide, and he did the full spectrum. He wasn't just a pop star or a rock star. He was like a poet. And he sort of told me, like his music as a little boy, it told me it's okay to be arty, it's okay to be angry, it's okay to hate everyone, but get it out through music, you know.
Well, let's remind ourselves of the darkness that could be in some of his work. This is a clip, Gavin, from his track Heroin.